Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Manny. Last video, I had spoken about how I wanted to talk about what United is competing against, who we're competing against, and how to win said competition. I talked about the state of Man United fandom, and actually, right now, this very moment. If you look anywhere online, you'd see a huge division just on this Ederson conversation. I think just on this topic, real quick, I really believe a lot of fans don't know the difference between euros and pounds because Man United deal in pounds. However, most of the transfers are reported in euros. So if the club is working and thinking, okay, we're going to sign a 26, almost 27-year-old midfielder from Atalanta who has 1 year left on his deal for 35 plus 3 million, so 38 million pounds, then I think that's a quality deal. It's not as if it's replacing Casemiro. It will be pretty much replacing Ugarte. So, but anyway, I'll cover transfers much later. I was just looking on X and I saw a few posts and I had to mute a bunch of accounts. It's just so toxic. I really do not like it. I probably need to stop looking at it. Anyway, to this conversation, what Man United is competing against, who we're competing against, and how to win. Just a quick backstory. Let's look at the last few Premier League champions. Man City, Liverpool, currently Arsenal, which, by the way, congratulations to Arsenal. Uh, my brother was 8 years old the last time Arsenal won a Premier League. He turns 30 this year, so it's been a while. And I reminded him to go send that email. Arsenal are Premier League champions. Whoever gets the joke gets it. All right, let's talk about the last Premier League champions. The last one outside of Arsenal, City, and Liverpool was Chelsea, and that was 2017. Obviously, Chelsea is going to be on a backslide since Roman Abramovich left or was forced to leave. And then Liverpool started their project with Klopp, and they backed him. They gave him all the tools he needed, and more importantly, they gave him time. Man City signed one of the greatest managers of all time, certainly the greatest manager of this era, right? Because Sir Alex Ferguson is not in this era, so he wouldn't qualify. So them winning six Premier League titles in I want to say what 8 years or not seven Premier League titles in 10 years, something like that. I mean, it's very, very impressive what Pep Guardiola was able to achieve. Now, with him leaving and the rumor has it as Enzo Maresca coming in, it kind of opens up because it doesn't matter how good Man City's recruitment is or how many decent or good players they get. Maresca is not Pep. That's just a fact. Maresca isn't Pep. So a lot of things that Pep can do and get away with just because he's a genius of the game and the adjustments he might make in a big game or the tactics he might come up with when planning for a game, Maresca might not, we don't know, right? Might not be able to replicate that. I would borderline say he probably won't be able to replicate that, right? Now, he did a good job at Chelsea. The board and the management at Chelsea was just really, really bad. I mean, abysmal. They were terrible. Now, with Man City out of the way, let's talk about Liverpool. Yes, granted, they had a crappy season this year. However, they're in the middle of a rebuild, so this is a bit expected. Losing Trent Alexander-Arnold was a big miss, right? And a very stupid transfer was selling Luis Diaz and re-signing to an extension Cody Gakpo. That was dumb. I don't understand why they did that, but not my business. Now, as Slot tries to rebuild the team, they're going to need to transition. They're not all of a sudden just going to maintain the same levels that won them the Premier League title 2 seasons ago, which, by the way, majority of those players were Klopp's players and Mo Salah having an amazing season. When the individual can carry the team and there are gaps and holes in the team, this is what you'll get. It's the exact same situation at Man United. Bruno Fernandes is having had an amazing season. He carried the team. We can't expect him to carry the team next season, otherwise we're gonna be in trouble. So these are the things that fans need to look at and take into account. Now let's talk about Arsenal, current Premier League champions and possibly even European champions coming up. Because I, just from a footballing perspective, I see how they can win. From a fan perspective, I don't want them to win. However, I see how they can. This is a one-off game with a team that's really good at defending, excellent at set pieces, and can create chances for themselves. Now, keep in mind that PSG do not have Donnarumma. Donnarumma was the reason PSG beat Arsenal last season. So there's a lot going on here. It will not surprise me one bit if Arsenal wins. Actually, I have a feeling they might win. Let's look at how Arsenal built this team, right? They come in, Arteta comes in and wins the FA Cup, but that wasn't really his team. That was Unai's team, which was an extension of Arsene Wenger's team. When Arteta's rebuild started, he started by just jettisoning and running out of town a bunch of players from Mesut Ozil to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and a bunch of other players. Remember Pierre-Emerick Mertesacker and Mustafi and those guys, all gone. Then they started building. Comes eighth 2 seasons in a row, I believe, and then starts coming second multiple seasons in a row. What happened in the seasons that he came second, particularly last season or 2 seasons ago now, since they just won the league last season, I should say, was squad depth. They lost key players at critical times. And because the quality drop off was so large when the starters went out, they could not maintain that title charge. Meanwhile, Man City had a deeper squad and they had a special player in Kevin De Bruyne, right? So once you understand these scenarios and these situations, you will see why the transfer season Arsenal had last summer, bringing in all those players in Capier, Gyökeres, and the likes, give them an excellent squad depth where the level did not change so much between the starters and the backups that they could maintain the charge. And if you go into squeaky bum time, which is 5 games to go in the season where you just need points and you don't need to play beautiful football to win, you need a good squad. This is Arteta and the Kroenke family learning from their mistakes and building. So this is what United are competing against. What we did this year, we can't do next year because we're gonna have at least minimum 48 games next season. Assuming we don't get kicked out of the first round in the FA Cup and the first round in the Carabao Cup, we could have closer to 55 games, depending on how deep we go into Champions League. There are 8 games in the Champions League group stage, one FA Cup game, one Carabao Cup game. That's 10 games plus 38 league matches. That's 48. We're not going to keep that up if we have to play every 3 days. So building a competent squad where the drop off isn't large between the starters and the backups is what's going to save United and keep the team competitive going forward. So a deal like Edison makes a lot of sense. Now, you have the Brightons of the world, the Bournemouths of the world, the Newcastles of the world. Newcastle, I believe they're in trouble right now. I don't know how they're going to survive. I know, let's not forget Aston Villa. I don't know how they're going to survive, right? Bournemouth, they're probably going to lose a few players, but Marco Rose is a good coach, and I think should have them doing well enough to maintain, Conference League, Europa League positions, and maybe making a mid to deeper run into cups. Now, how can United win this competition against the upper echelon teams, which right now will be City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa, the upcoming teams, which would be Chelsea, who do not have any European football, Tottenham, because the Zerbi will have them competing, right? And then you have the ones knocking on the door, which would be the Bournemouth, the Brightons, the Newcastles. So to be better than Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Brighton, we're going to need to weaken those teams the way Sir Alex used to do it. You buy from them. You get your best players who will want to join United just because you're Man United. You weaken them. They can replace those good players with the speed needed to get the new players competitive. So, for example, Newcastle loses Tonali. They can get another Tonali replacement. However, that player most likely won't come good for another couple years. That's a couple years that you get on them to dominate. Say Bournemouth, right? Say if they lose Alex Scott, maybe they lose Adrian Truffert. The recruitment's very good. They will continue to recruit well. However, it's not going to be the same. This is how United have always operated. When Fergie was manager, this is what he did. He bought the best from all the other teams. That's how he operated, right? Now, when you go to the next tier, which is Spurs and Chelsea, Chelsea are going to be good because Alonso is a great manager. They're going to be good. Spurs are going to be good because De Zerbi is a great manager. Now, barring any unforeseen craziness, because the league right now is insane, anybody can be trash, really. I expect those teams to be competing, and they will have some money to strengthen and get good players. Now, I'm expecting Spurs to lose some players. Would not surprise me if Van der Ven goes to Bayern because we know how important company will value his speed. I don't think Couto Romero might stay, so they might lose some players as well. Chelsea, that remains to be seen. I'm not particularly sure about that. Now, to be competing for Champions League and a potential Premier League title, we're looking at Arsenal and Manchester City, really. Manchester City are probably going to strengthen with Elliot Anderson, which, by the way, I love Elliot Anderson. I would love for him to join Manchester United. However, I don't think United need £100 million midfielder right now. We're not there in the step of this rebuild. You buy £100 million player when it's the last piece to the puzzle. Virgil van Dijk. Soon as Liverpool signs him, they start winning things, right? Declan Rice. Soon as Arsenal signs him, they start winning things. Even Moise Caicedo, right? You sign those pieces as the last piece of the puzzle, so to speak. I know I said pieces already, but you sign that kind of player as the last piece of the puzzle, not when you still need a general or broader rebuild. So 120 million pounds for Elliot Anderson right now sounds like a bad deal to me when you can go get a Tonali with Ederson and Mateus Fernandez, or you do Tonali with Ederson, or you do Bruno Guimaraes with Ederson and Carlos Baliba, right? So there are other signings you can make in the meantime that improves the squad overall. And then next summer, based off whatever has happened throughout the season, then you can start looking to see, oh, do we need one player to complete this puzzle? Then you go spend that big money. But right now, the focus should be on strengthening our position, our league position, and staying in around third, maybe moving up to second and cutting down the distance between first and us, because the distance this year was, I think, 14 points. If we come third next year, for example, and first place first place is 7 or 8 points ahead of us, that's a pretty good season. Maybe you go up second place, and the distance between second and first is about 8 points. Remember the last time we came second under Mourinho, the distance was 19 points. It wasn't really a title race. 19 points, that's 6 games, right? So that's what the title race. A good benchmark right now, 14 points is about 5 games. Let's call it 15 points. So that's 3 times 5, 15, right? So it's about 4.5 games. 4.5 games is a lot in the league, right? If we can get that down to about 2 games, so about 6 points, maybe 2.5 games, about 7 points, that's improving because the spot we want is first place. So we have to look at the distance in points. Now, how to win this battle? First, I mentioned weakening the all-around league competition by taking the best players. You use your pedigree. This is Manchester United we're talking about here. You use your pedigree and you get those players. Michael Carrick has already proven so far to know what he's doing in terms of getting the players to play together and move towards one direction, which, by the way, I will give Ruben Amorim a lot of credit for building the right mentality in the squad. That was definitely something he did a good job of. The only thing Amorim didn't really do was win, which is the most important thing. So Carrick is doing that. So we're gonna back Carrick to continue to do that. Now, closing that distance is important. That there's no ifs and buts about that. You have to close that distance. 14 points, that's a lot of points. Next season, you close that down. Now, Champions League, because you don't have a lot of players who've played in the Champions League, maybe a quarterfinal would be a really, really good season. Just to get the experience of going back to the Champions League going again. Personally, I think United get knocked out in the second round, so round of 16 before we get to the quarters. That would be I would say a realistic place to be in, just because of the quality in the Champions League. You might run into a Barcelona, run into a Real Madrid, or run into a PSG or Bayern. Those are monsters right now. So That deep run in the Carabao Cup, deep runs in the FA Cup, maybe try to win one of those two. Just get some silverware into the project, right? And slowly but surely, but with intent. You build out the squad right now because we can have a conversation about the defense. Even that defense needs some help, but we can't do anything about that this summer because this summer is all about midfield. So I think this is a realistic place to start. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments. I definitely might have it all backwards. However, I do believe this would be a smart way of going about it. But thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next video where I will be covering Michael Carrick so far. All right.